This year. Okay. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another live coaching call with Needle Marketing. We've got Kasim on the line today. Welcome back, Kasim.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Yvonne is not able to attend today, but we've got Kasim here to talk to us about Calendly. And, you know, as we know, Needle Marketing has been a huge advocate for Calendly. It's made systems and processes so easy for admissions directors and administrators. So our goal today is to go through Calendly, kind of give you some tips and pointers, you know, how it works, why we advocate for it. And, you know, at the end, if live attendees would like to go through their specific Calendly, we can help you set that up. That'd be great. So without further ado, Kasim, you're on.
Take it and run. Thanks again for having me. I know I'm a downgrade from Yvonne, but I'm going to do my best to be as charming as he is. The first thing I want to say is Calendly just happens to be the tool that we landed on. I want to make the point that we're pretty open to just about any online scheduler. I like Calendly the best because I think it's the most intuitive and it's free to use up until a certain point when you want more features. But there's others out there. Acuity Scheduling is one that I've seen some members use. HubSpot has a scheduling tool. So more to the point is we just want to see you scheduling tours online because we feel like that's a really good way to engage parents. And Calendly is the tool we use, but if you have a tool that you like better, or if, you know, somebody in your organization has a tool that you like better, please feel free to use that as well. Is that okay, Daneen?
Yeah, well, and I'm curious to know what other schools do use. You know, we've got some of our members that use forms on their website, and then that form is sent to a particular email and they reach out directly. But what we've found is that that can get tedious. And depending on how traffic is getting to those forms, you may be going through a lot of them that are not either mission appropriate or just, you know, didn't realize that they filled out the form. So I'd love it, Kasim, if you could talk a little bit about how, to the fears of some of our members of, I don't want somebody scheduling a tour without me contacting them first because it's scary.
Yes, and I think there's a lot of reasons why that's a valid fear. And I think Calendly addresses some, not all. So some of the things I've heard from parents or from schools, is that we want to vet parents before we schedule a tour. And I totally understand that. The workaround that we have there, and this comes directly from Matt, who has this process in place over at Bergamo. When somebody schedules a tour, usually his admissions director follows up with a phone call. And so what's nice about doing it in that order is you still get the lead. You still have the opportunity to engage with this person, and now it's your choice as to whether or not you think they're going to be mission appropriate, and you can call and follow up. And, you know, you're calling and following up under the guise of providing more information, but you're also at the same time vetting and qualifying. This to me is preferable than possibly losing mission appropriate parents because our tour scheduling process is inadequate. The disadvantage you have with a form is it's not a closed loop. If you say, fill out this form and we'll get back to you, instantly, psychologically, even if I don't realize it, I realize, oh, okay, that's just more work because I'm going to fill this out and then something's going to happen that will also require me to do things. But if I can schedule with you right now today and I can choose my time right now today, that's a closed loop and it allows me to accomplish a task. And so what we've seen, and it's not just with one school, what we've seen with every single school that has ever used Calendly ever is an increase in tour schedules. And I can say that because we've had the opportunity now over the past 2 years to work with a ton of schools. And it has been an almost ubiquitous truth. If you allow people to schedule online, they'll do it. You'll receive more tours than you're going to receive otherwise. And what's kind of cool is you start learning the temperaments of your parents. For a lot of our schools, they'll come back and say, I was really surprised to see that we're getting a ton of tours late at night. And, you know, it makes a lot of sense. If you have, if you live in an area where you're dealing with, you know, 2 working parents and everybody's really busy and they're doing a bunch of, you know, things and now they have to do research late at night, they're not going to have the ability to call in and schedule a tour or, you know, do the back and forth with you. The Calendly ends up being a far more, I think, applicable solution. I realize I went off on a crazy tangent, Daneen. I'm sorry. How did I do? Was that an answer to your question?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
that sold me on Calendly.
Awesome.
I love it. It just, you know, it makes our life so much easier. And I think to the point of psychologically, it's a closed loop. And I love that. You articulated that so well because, you know, when you do fill out that form, then you know there's a follow-up and you might have to do that. You have to be, you know, at your phone at whatever time they call you or, you know, looking at a particular email. So that closed loop is key. I love that.
Yeah, it lets you check off the box, you know, and now it's, the other thing that is really cool about Calendly is it allows you to build a system for your process. Because if you're scheduling tours manually, that means that, depending on how organized you are, somebody might be writing it on a napkin on the desk and somebody might be putting it in your Excel file. But now what about follow-up or automated reminders or capturing that information for, study later, or trying to figure out what program they're in? Calendly lets you drop all of that into, automated email reminders or integrate with your CRM. It just gives you the opportunity to dive much deeper and get way more strategic later. And if that overwhelms you, forget I said it. Just do Calendly for now. You don't have to do all that other stuff. But know that at least now you have the opportunity. So here's what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to show you how Calendly works because it's super ninja.
And Kasim, will you also tell us the versions of Calendly? Because there's a few.
Yes.
And then let us know which one you prefer, which one's the best.
Yeah, there's a bait and switch. Can you see my screen? Are you looking at Calendly right now?
Uh-huh.
Cool. There's a bait and switch with Calendly, which is, and it's not even a bait and switch. They have to make money too. But their free version, I think, is awesome. I use the free version personally, incidentally. My personal Calendly has yet to be upgraded because I have not needed the upgrade. The free version lets you do everything you need to do for basic tour scheduling. If you're running ads, you have to pay for Pro. And if you're paying monthly, it's $15 a month. And the reason you have to pay for Pro is because the way Google Ads tracks success when somebody actually schedules is they need to see a thank you page. And if somebody lands on the thank you page, that's Google's indication of, that person scheduled a tour. Well, Calendly only allows you to use custom redirects. If I can find it here, not that it's relevant. Here we go. Invitee redirect is only available here. So if you want to use Google Ads, Calendly is going to be $15 a month. I still think nothing could be more worth that investment. And I really mean that. I mean, at this point, lattes are almost that. And for 2 lattes a month, you're having the opportunity to give people the ability to schedule, quickly, and then also track that inside of Google Ads. So I think it's worth every penny. We're not Calendly affiliates. We don't make any money selling Calendly. We should, but they haven't paid us. So we just really like the tool. Here's what Calendly looks like and functions like. And incidentally, if you have any questions for my live attendees, I know I go really fast. So if I need to slow down or answer something, please feel free to chat in there, and I'll return to whatever it is that I need to return to. Here's Bergamo's website, and Matt is actually the one that found Calendly. And he's got a very clear call to action on almost every single page to schedule a tour. And I can't stress that enough. You have to tell people what you want them to do. Here's what's really interesting about digital marketing. And I'm stealing this concept. I forget from who, though, so forgive me for not properly citing. I think it's Don Miller from StoryBrand, but he says that in the world where we're communicating people, if 0 is the most basic communication in existence and 10 is, complex, triple PhD, whatever, we tend to communicate with our prospects on a level of 7, 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range. And we're trusting them too much, and is essentially what he says. We need to be at a 2. So when somebody hits your website, what you don't realize is you know so much more about Montessori schools than they know. They don't know what the next step is. They're scared, they're alone, they're afraid, and they need you to tell them, hey, if you're interested, let's talk. Come on into the school. Schedule an observation, schedule a tour. And you need to be consistent with that call to action. Statistically, it takes 31 impressions before somebody's ready to engage. Now, hopefully, they don't have to see this 31 times before they schedule a tour. But it's good for us to know that data point. You have to repeat that call to action on a consistent basis in order for them to possibly schedule. So don't just put schedule a tour on your admissions page. It should be on your homepage. If it were up to me, it would be right here on the homepage banner image. Now, Matt doesn't have quite the same need for admissions any longer, so he's going more after aesthetics. But for our schools that come in and say, hey, admissions is my #1 thing, I would have a great big button right here under Education for Life that says schedule a tour. It's your primary call to action across your entire website. So when somebody gets to your website and they click on schedule a tour, it's going to open Calendly. Automatically, we're met with awesomeness. Calendly gives us the opportunity to segment. Now, Matt has segmented by his locations. If you're not in a multi-location school, that's no big deal. You can segment by your programs if you wanted to. Or if you're offering different tours for different reasons. If you don't want to do that at all, then the link that they would land on is this. So imagine you just clicked on this button and you're instantly here. Here's the benefit you're giving to your parents is when we talked about that psychological closed loop, there's actually a little bit of dopamine hit anytime you get to check something off of your checklist. They've done studies on this, which I think is really interesting. But as a parent, I'm now being given the opportunity to further my goal in an immediate way. And so looking at this, Matt's done some really amazing things. He lets us know exactly how long the tour is going to take. He lets us know exactly where it's going to be. And he reaffirms what it is that we're doing, which, again, speaking to people on that 2 scale from the 0 to 10, this is necessary. Just to remind you, you're scheduling a tour at Bergamo, for these programs. So we get to scroll through here, and you'll notice that at a certain point, he actually limits how far out you can schedule. I think he might have it on 90 days. But you get to put people in a box. And so this is really cool, too, and hopefully this starts to assuage some of your fears. And I'm going to show you this in the Calendly settings, but you get to tell Calendly when people schedule. And so you can say, hey, I don't want them to be able to schedule too far out. I also don't want them to be able to schedule same day because I don't want to be, sneak attacked with scheduling. I want buffers between my appointments. I want multiple people in a single scheduler. We have this limited inventory or whatever. It's very robust, but really simple to set up. So you get to customize it entirely to your needs. And it's going to integrate with your calendar. So if you have something on your calendar already, if you're busy, Calendly is going to check your calendar first and say, oh, nope, there's something on there. I'm not going to schedule anything there. So just continuing in the narrative, let's say that I want to come in next week on the 8th. I can see, oh, they have a 9 and a 10 available. Gosh, you know what? That's not going to work for me. What does Friday look like? And it looks like that's just the schedule. So we're going to do 10 a.m. And when I click on confirm, he asks for my information. 705. He wants to know what program we're interested in, and if we have any questions or comments. And then if you want a text message reminder, this text message reminder is part of the Pro feature. So if you don't have Pro, you're not going to be able to use it. But what's cool is he's already pre-qualifying parents, which I think is really interesting. So we know what programs they're interested in touring. That might change the narrative that the admission director has when she follows up. I'm not going to schedule the event because I don't want to mess up Matt's calendar. But what would happen when I schedule, and actually let me do this. I'll schedule one for me so you can see the confirmation process because I think that's important. So if you wanted to schedule a phone call with Kasim, I don't know why you would want that. Let's say we're going to do it at 9:30. And you'll notice that I have different questions. So you can customize the questions that we're asking. And then we click schedule an event. And now Calendly is going to say, confirmed, you're scheduled with Kasim. Click here to add this to your calendar, which is super cool. Now let's pretend like I didn't do this. What's amazing is Calendly is going to send me an email with a calendar invite. It's an attachment that Gmail, Outlook, Apple, all of the major email clients are going to read and automatically add to their calendar. So now, not only has the parent scheduled with you, it's on your calendar and it's on their calendar. And they're going to receive an email confirmation that says, hey, thank you. Let me pull up that email confirmation just so you can see it.
And Kasim, you're still in the free version here, right?
Still in the free version. Yes,
yeah.
ma'am.
Molly did have a question. She was wondering if you can segment by location and then segment again by program.
How would I do that? I think what you would need to do is what Matt's done, which is segment by location first, and then when they schedule their tour, ask them what program they're interested in touring. But I don't think Calendly has tertiary categories, or I guess that would be secondary categories. So no, ma'am, I'm sorry to say I don't think that's possible.
Now, what about like multiple calendars? So you've got locations. You can attach a specific calendar to that location, right? Or that event, maybe, because you've got, different events as well.
That's such a great question. There's some limitation here. Calendly it can integrate with multiple calendars, but the calendars are set account wide. And I don't believe, and I'll check actually when we dive into the settings, but I don't believe that there's a way to say this event checks calendar A and this event checks calendar B. I think you can just say, I want you to check calendar A, B, and C for conflicts. And if there are no conflicts, then make myself available. And the reason Calendly is doing this is because they want you to pay for independent users. So if you could have events check multiple calendars, then you could have as many users as you want inside of Calendly, and they're not able to charge you per user. So they want the user, and really I realize it's the entire school, but they want the user's availability that they can check against. And then every subsequent user that you want to pay for has its own set of calendars.
Okay.
This is the email confirmation that I received when I scheduled. You'll notice that I have a description in here. You get to customize the email confirmation, excuse me. So I get to tell them, hey, this is where I want you to go. I'd recommend this very strongly for Montessori schools, saying, giving them context as to what to do. So thank you so much for scheduling your tour. Here's the address as to where the tour, where the school is located. Please feel free to park around back. And then if you wanted to do something, I've seen a competitor of mine do this, and I just thought it was so creative. He shot a video in the parking lot of his office. And he walks out and he goes, hey, this is what the parking lot looks like. I can't tell you how excited I am to see you. I just want to walk you into our, and what he did is he walks through the parking lot and he walks through the front door, and then he walks through the corridor, and then he walks through the door of their office because they're in a shared complex. And interestingly, I think it brings down the nervous factor of going to a new place. You know exactly where to go. You know where to park. You know what door to walk into. You know who you're going to be greeted by. They've seen your face. They've heard your voice. And this is a video you can shoot from your iPhone. Have somebody go get one of those little selfie sticks and just shoot you saying, you know, hey, I'm the admissions director. Can't wait to see you. By the way, here's what the process is going to look like. It's going to take you 90 seconds to do that task. And it's going to set you so far above every single other school they're touring. It's just such a proactive thing to do. And then you just link to a quick video inside of the calendar confirmation.
Love that idea. That is so good. What I love too is that it shows that you're really thinking about their experience.
Yes.
Right. Because oftentimes in the admissions process, which we can say it's the offer process as well. We think about how are we going to, you know, show them our program and show them what we're about. But really that first step is you want to think about their experience and where they're coming from. And that's just a beautiful way of doing it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Daneen. I honestly didn't take it as far as you did, but one thing that you just made me think of is it would be really kind of cool, and this is an idea I just had, so push back on it if it's a bad one, but it would be cool if we had questions you should ask when you're touring a school here. It's one of the lead magnets we have in our resources section, and I was on the phone with a school. It was Bernadette. I was on the phone with Bernadette and Molly, and they said, one of the things they said that really struck me is new parents don't know what to ask. And so part of what makes the tour daunting is you're like, gosh, I have to go in here and I have to talk to these people who are professional educators, and I have to sound stupid because I have no idea what I'm supposed to be asking, and I don't want to feel like I'm an uninvolved parent, but I really don't know what I don't know. And so how cool would it be if you just had a link to, hey, just, you know, FYI, every school is different, but here are the questions we think that you should be asking when you're touring a school.
I love that. Do we have something similar to that, right? Like choosing a child care?
I think we have that exact resource. Let me just check real quick. Do you like how fragmented I am? I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to be talking about Calendly.
No, I mean, this is all interconnected. It's great. That's such a good idea because especially when we have parents that, I mean, well, most of the parents that come in don't have Montessori experience. And so when they walk in, of course they're in awe, and we see that, and we work hard to help them, you know, help ground them and understand what we do. But you can't know what you don't know. And if
right.
you add that, even before walking in the door, I think it breaks down barriers so quickly. Well,
I'm about to slander my own environment, so forgive me because I think I might get in trouble for saying this. But when I toured, my children both go to Montessori schools, obviously. When I toured the school, I can't say they did a great job at making me feel comfortable asking questions. I think Montessorians have been misrepresented. So the whole world has said the wrong thing about Montessori so often. So when I ask things like, you know, why is the furniture so small? Or why are they all so quiet? The Montessorians take it almost as an attack or a challenge. And the response is such that I now know, okay, don't ask something like that again. And that's not a criticism. It could have just been my experience at that one school. But I do feel like whenever you're dealing with something that's not the norm, it's very easy to place people in an uncomfortable position around asking questions, and also maybe not create the environment necessary to allow them to ask those questions. And so giving them a pamphlet saying, hey, here are some questions that people ask, it just gets that whole process started. Have I said anything that you think will make people quit?
No, I mean, it's good food for thought. And we all have experienced that, you know, especially those that are trained and have been around for a while and really know it well. Sometimes we forget about these elements where, you know, not everybody is in our experience that we've had or as passionate about this. I struggle with that sometimes. Of course, like I could talk about Montessori all day long,
yeah.
But you know, I have to be able to meet whoever I'm talking to where they're at and not where I'm at. And that's a huge part of that process.
Absolutely. I think you're really good at that, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
And we do have an asset. It's called 5 Things to Look For When Touring a Child Care Program. And by the way, to our members, we wouldn't expect you to take this off the shelf and just use it. Download it, customize it. You might agree with some, all, nothing, but just use this as a template. And I'm going to open it up here just to see what it looks like. Bam. So just a 5-point document, and you might have 20 and you might have 3, but this is just a good starting point as to what parents should be looking for. And I think if you armed a parent with this, again, it's going to set you above some of those other schools are touring. realize that as uncomfortable it is we're in a combative environment. And if we don't do some of these things, KinderCare will, because they've got an entire corporate structure dedicated to nothing but analyzing what color resonates and, at what point do we have to say this thing in order to make people buy. And all they're selling is Clorox and toys, right? Like they've got nothing. So I think that we just need to show parents why we're so much better. And that's something that I think we can really help with. So anyway, going back to Calendly, here's my event reminder. What's really cool about Calendly is, let's see if I can find it. It's probably going to be on my calendar. What's really cool about Calendly is it gives people the opportunity to reschedule if they need to or cancel if they need to without having to reach out to you, which I think is awesome. So without further ado, can I dive into the Calendly dashboard, Daneen?
Let's do it. Yep.
Awesome. Any questions from our members? Have I lost anybody?
No, but Kristen did mention that she loves this conversation. So yay, our tangents are accepted.
Okay, good. Yeah, sometimes I worry. That's awesome. Thank you, Kristen. I've got the chat open up here. And so here's what's going to happen is, why don't I sign up? Let's look at the entire sign up process. So I'm going to say Kasim. And a cool little pro tip is if you have a Gmail account, you can add the plus sign after your email's name and create a new dummy email. So today is August 1st, 19th. So I said Kasim plus 8119. Now I've got a brand new email. And I'm going to here's my name.
And then Molly's wondering, if someone cancels or reschedules, do you receive an email alert so you're aware?
You do, yes, ma'am. And Calendly is pretty cool that way too. You receive the exact same email notification that you normally receive when somebody schedules with you, but then in red text, the original time is crossed out, and if there's a new time, it gives you the new time, and it asks them for a reason for the cancellation or the reschedule, which is kind of cool too, because that reason is going to arm you with information as to whether or not you follow up. And for my admissions directors out there, follow-up is so critically important. So if somebody cancels on you, and they appeared to be mission appropriate, but something happened and they just needed to reschedule, I'd recommend dropping them into your follow-up sequence somehow, some way. Because again, I think that's just going to set you apart. And everything that you do, I stole this from somebody else, a guy named Don Miller, who I really like and listen to every single day, but he says everything we sell is medicine. And if you think about Montessori, and if Montessori is medicine, then the question is what's the sickness? And what's kind of cool about that for us is we can go as far with that as we want to. How about a world that needs more compassionate humans, right? So if that's the medicine you're selling, then you shouldn't be afraid to follow up. If you really believe in the medicine you're selling, you shouldn't be afraid to follow up. And I have to stress that because so many of our schools get really soft touch. They're like, oh, we don't want to bug people. And get that out of your mind. They're sick and you have medicine. Like you have a responsibility to the world to get in front of them and follow up. And again, if you don't, KinderCare will. So that was a great question, Molly. But yes, you'll receive an email alert, and that'll give you an opportunity to follow up.
That was a good
Sorry,
point.
I got really weird there.
I imagine this is probably built into it, but when somebody cancels, it then reopens that spot, right, for somebody else to go in. So like in case this happens at the same time where somebody wants to schedule a tour at the time that somebody canceled, it's available as soon as they cancel, right? That's
a great question. That's exactly what happens. Yeah, it takes it off of your Google Calendar. It integrates with Google, Outlook, Apple, and I think one other. I've only ever used the Google Calendar integration. I've used Outlook integrations for other implementations, and I can tell you that Outlook tends to be a little buggy. So I'd recommend people use Google or Apple. It's asking me to confirm my email. I just did that. Now that I'm confirmed, it's going to take me to, drum roll. So I'm signed up. Now, this is cool. It took us all of 12 seconds if I wasn't talking to sign up for Calendly, and we just got our free account. And it's going to ask you to name your account. And what you want to do is name it with the shortest name you possibly can think of that's still indicative of your school. So if I was Bergamo, I'd say I want calendly.com/Bergamo. I'm not going to take that because Matt already has it, but I might say like Kasim Montessori. So this is Kasim's Montessori School, and I continue. And now it's going to ask me to connect my calendar. If you're already logged into your calendar, this becomes the easiest thing in the world. So you're going to go to the calendar of your choice. And again, oh, here we go, Outlet plugin. Never, ever, ever, ever use this. This will be a nightmare and it will constantly try to query your machine. So I'm going to say Google Calendar because that's the calendar that I use. And then it's going to ask me to choose my Google account. And then it's going to say, hey, Google Calendar wants to make sure that you trust these folks. I'm going to say allow because I do. And now this is what's cool is Calendly wants to work with Kasim. It will check Kasim Aslam for conflicts. And I can open this up and you'll see I have multiple calendars here. So like I've got Matt's calendar, which will be fun to sort of mess with him on it. And if I wanted to check with multiple, like, so here's my business calendar and here's my personal calendar. But let's say you had an admissions calendar and a class calendar or whatever, you could say, I actually want to check multiple calendars for conflicts. I'm only going to do one. And then this is what's really cool too about Calendly is you can check calendar A for conflicts, but write your events to calendar B. So Calendly is saying, hey, we're going to write everything to main, and that's where I want it. So that's great. I'm going to say continue.
Is this an okay time to talk about calendars really quick?
Yeah, shoot.
What works inside Calendly? Because some of our members don't have Google Calendar. And that's our, world, of course. But are there other calendars that can work, or would you recommend somebody like creating an admissions calendar in Google Calendar?
Google will work. Apple will work. Apple has iCal, and Outlook 365 will work, or 360. I forget what they call it. Those three are the ones that we just saw on that last screen, and those are the three that Calendly will integrate with. My strong recommendation is Google Calendar because it's free, it's easy to use, it's easy to add people. I think it has the most robust integration. iCal does this really weird thing with its calendar invites where it won't necessarily share it with your other devices or network depending on how you receive it. So I just like Google Calendar the best. It's just my soft opinion.
So this is a rookie question. Let's say you're not using Gmail, but you want to make a Google Calendar. How does that work? Can you do that?
Well, your Google account ends up giving you by proxy, you get a Gmail account, a calendar account, a Drive account, and a Photos account. So you get all those accounts from Google, but you can go right now. Like if I go to google.com/calendar and say create an account, then I'm signing up right now for a Google Calendar, but you can see I'm creating a Google account to create a Google Calendar. So it will give me a Gmail that's attached to that Google account. And you can see here that you have to create your username and it's going to be at gmail.com.
Got it. Okay. But you can, like let's say schools have, the domain and the email inside of that. You can always forward emails from this one.
And that would be the fix. That was really sharp. Yes. Good call there. See, Daneen, you're like a digital marketer.
A year, right? It takes a year.
You've done it. Bam. Today's the day. No, honestly, you've been doing it this whole time too. I didn't mean today's the day. Yes, so that's exactly what you do is you create your Google Calendar, create your Gmail, and then forward your Gmail to your administrative email.
Cool. Good
call. So this is cool. I haven't seen Calendly do this before, but it's asking me to set up my events now. So I'm going to do this two ways so you can see both ways. This is the startup way. It says, when are you available? We'll say 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Great. What is your day-to-day role at work? Now they just want information. I don't like that at all. Notice how they didn't let me skip that one.
I like that you say that as a marketer. I don't like that.
They're just trying to segment me. I'm not going to schedule a test because we just did that and you all saw how it worked. This is cool. I haven't seen this before either. So they have in-app onboarding, which is awesome. Molly says, can you specify what calendar the event is saved to based off of what segment they select? No, ma'am. That's account-wide. So the calendar you choose to save to is going to be all the events go to one calendar. And that's also because Calendly wants you to have to pay for multiple users. So I'm not going to walk through this onboarding section, but I would encourage you to. If you're building this anew, I think that this would probably be a benefit. But let's go in here and create a new event type. So let's say that we want to do automatically. Calendly just blew my mind again. You can do one-on-one tours, or you can do group tours. There are more reasons to do group tours than if you just offer group tours. At a point when we were running Facebook really heavily for Matt, what we found is he got a ton of tour schedules, but a lot of no-shows because Facebook had fickle traffic. And so what he started doing is having people book in the group environment, knowing that he was going to have like a 50% retention rate from Facebook. And then he would just spread it out across the resources that he had available. So even if you don't offer group tours, if you're getting a bunch of tours and you don't have a lot of time and you're getting some no-shows, it might be worth getting people to schedule inside of groups because it doesn't block off that timeline with the understanding that, you'll have to deal with that when they all land at the school at the same time. I'm going to select one-on-one because I think this is the safest. This is my comfort zone is the one-on-one. If your school deals with groups, that's great. One-on-one, we're going to say schedule a tour. And actually, no, the event name is going to be what shows up in their calendar invite. So you want this to say tour of Kasim's Montessori school. There, that sounds better. Tour Costumes Montessori School. The location is going to be your address, of course. You do want to display the location while booking. Here's the description that we talked about, the instructions. Here's where you park, here's where you go, here's what to expect, here's what questions to ask. But this is where you put all that great information. And then you get to name this event the same way you got to name your Calendly link. Here's what's cool is now you know calendly.com/Costume Montessori is always going to be your link. So you don't have to remember some weird, jargony string of whatever. So I would just call this tour. And you might have, preschool tour, infant tour, etc. Choose your color. Color coding is helpful when you have multiple events. And then we're going to say next. And this is the customization I was talking about. So this is where we get to protect ourselves from people. So choose the event duration. You can choose one of their predefined durations or your own. So let's say the tour is about an hour. And that might be you just leaving a little margin there. And then this lets you decide how far out they're able to book. So this says 60 rolling days. If you say, hey, that's too far out, I want to be able to control my calendar more, then we could say 30 if you want to, or 10 or 120 or whatever. Time zone is probably not relevant to us because everybody's going to be localized, but you might have parents that are traveling and looking. So what I would say is allow people to see your availability in their local time zone. And then this is where we get to set our availability on a day-to-day basis. Now check this out. I can go in here and say, you know what, Mondays, I like to have my mornings to myself so I can actually get some stuff done. So I'm going to say I'm only available Mondays at 12 p.m. And you know what? Apply that to all my Mondays. Tuesdays, I actually get in the office at 8, or I get in my school, my school opens at 8, and we're only open till 3. And you know what? Let's apply this to multiple. This is every weekday. And Saturdays, actually, we have a interval available for Saturdays. It's 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And apply to all Saturdays. Oops. And I can't type it right now.
Because we wanted to talk about tour availability. I know that's been a conversation that has come up a little bit. What's your recommendation on tour availability?
It's so easy for me to
Sorry
say.
to just drop that, but
no, it's okay. It's easy for me to say this because I'm not running a school. I can't even imagine what you would have to go through when you're running a school. The amount of heartache and headache and pain. Not trying to talk anybody out of it, but I understand that you're so busy. And I just wanted to say that first to let you know that I empathize when I say the next thing I'm going to say, which is super lack of empathy. But you have to be available all the time forever. Your parents are just as busy. They have a lot going on, and kinder care takes tours 24/7, 365. So now that doesn't mean that you really have to be available forever. But for instance, we jumped on Matt's calendar, and I'm like, all right, weekday mornings, 9 or 10, and that's all you've got. Now, he has the luxury of having insane waiting lists because I'm good at my job. But if you're not there yet, then I think that you need to broaden that. Now, if that means in order to maintain your stress levels, you've got 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, great. But make sure you have some variability. Or maybe it's Monday morning, Tuesday evenings, Wednesday morning, Thursday. Give people the option of just knowing that, all right, I'm going to have my morning people and my evening people. I might have a stay-at-home mom that can only do it midday because once the evening rolls around, her life goes crazy. Empathize with your prospect. So as much as I wanted to empathize with you just then, think about your parents. Because if you try to crowbar people into when it works for your school, what are the odds that actually works for your parents, especially if you're in a place where you have 2 working parents? Because here's the other thing too that I think is so interesting. I've been on the phone with schools that are we really want both parents to show up to the tour so that we know they're mission appropriate. And we offer tours every day at noon, and it's well, there's no way that we're going to be able to pull that off in working environments. So empathize with your parents and then try to build your tour schedule around when it's going to work for your parents, and you're going to be more successful. I have to fight this battle often. We have a school right now, and I'm not picking on them because they're amazing, and they actually do a great job with admissions right now, so they can afford to do this. But I think they offer 1 tour a month. Do you know what I'm talking about, Daneen?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm not going to call them out then. But I think they offer 1 tour a month. And they've just got this one big block every month where somebody can come in. If that doesn't work for you, then you're, not going to be able to come to my school. So,
is there a middle ground here where you have certain blocks inside of Calendly that are available, but you can also offer the parent to contact you directly if they don't see times available for them inside of Calendly? Is there a way to do that?
Yes. So there's something we can do here. And it's a little tricky, but you can have your publicly available calendar that people can book from the site. And then you can go in and create a new calendar that has broader events. And that's if you're talking to a parent, you've been going back and forth and you're like, you know what, these folks are awesome. They're super mission appropriate. I want to give them the opportunity to whatever. And that just shows all your availability minus anything that's blocked out. And I've done that in the past. Here's my, my consultation calendar where I've blocked it out to where it's based on my convenience. And then here's I just want to get you on my calendar. And so you can use Calendly for both instances.
Got it. Okay. How would that look online? So like, let's say they're going into Calendly and they're not finding anything that they want. How do we address that issue? That
would be an additional follow-up. You'll notice actually it's right here at the bottom. It says secret event. So hide this event from your main Calendly page. If I made this a secret event, what would happen is I'd say, hey, Daneen, can't wait to see you. Please schedule your tour here. And then you'd click there and say, I'm so sorry. None of these times work for me and my husband. Is there something else we can do? And then I'd say, oh, you know what? Totally understand. Here's our expanded date range, and then send you the new link, and that's the secret link. That's the way that I would approach that. So there's a little bit of back and forth, but that's sort of the prerequisite to even knowing that they can't make your first.
Yeah. Deal. Cool. Good idea.
Cool. How am I doing? Am I tracking for everybody or all of our listeners? Is anybody asleep? I guess they wouldn't be able to respond.
Both here, so that's
They haven't left. Ain't nothing else stupid, Kasim. So now that we've got our event, and by the way, you didn't see me do this, but I went in here, I applied the dates and times. And by the way, you can black out specific dates. So if you say, hey, my birthday's the 29th. By the way, Daneen just had a birthday. Happy birthday. No, but happy birthday. But if you come out and say, whatever, we have a school thing, something's going on, I can go in here and say only August 29th. And so now August 29th, we're not going to have anything. That's one way to do it. The way that I do it, that's easier for me, is I just go into my Google Calendar and I block it off there. And what Calendly does is then reads my Google Calendar and says, oh, okay, nothing's available. Because I don't like logging into Calendly. Once I have it set up, it's done. And then I just go in and I manage my whole thing within Google. And I know I need to block off from 8 to 3 with an event.
Yeah, I just trust my Google Calendar and I work off of that. And then I know because Calendly constantly checks that, it's easy to work off of. One place is always good to go to.
Right.
After you set this up, that's ultimately the goal, right? Is to be working off your calendar and you've got all these systems in place. And that's why it's so neat to have these automated processes done. So you don't have to keep cross-checking and,
absolutely
platforms.
You should never log into Calendly unless you're changing settings. All of your events are already on your calendar. Like if you have like advanced segmenting or something in here and you want to see the events, Calendly will show you that, but I never log into Calendly ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now that I have my events created, we can come in here and customize our invitee questions, and you can get pretty cool here. So Calendly has a few different options. Text, multiple lines of text, radio buttons, meaning they have to choose one. Checkboxes, meaning they can choose any number of them. So like if I wanted to come in here and say infant, let's do primary. And then if I wanted to add another and say summer programs, and you can add another option. So what programs?
Or even parent-infant class, which you just learned about.
I should have done that. Oh, and you can choose to make this required or optional. I'll do that. Bam. Now my Montessori school has those. And here's what I'll say is add as many form fields as you feel you need to give your customer an adequate experience. So if you say, hey, I need this program information prior to so I can prepare my tour, great. The more form fields you add, the more likely it is that somebody goes, this looks like a lot of work, I'll do this later. So try to limit this to just what's necessary. However, with that said, I think you have to get a phone number. And the reason I think you have to get a phone number is because you're going to want to follow up with people. If somebody no-shows, if somebody might not be mission appropriate, I think a phone number is a prerequisite. So I would add phone number.
I feel like that's pretty customary too. Like parents that are shopping around are, used to giving their phone number out. So I don't feel like anybody else.
I would kind of question the people that didn't collect my phone number. At that point, I'd be like, man, you really don't have your stuff together. What happens if something goes wrong and you need to call me? That's another point too. What happens if you need to cancel on the parent? And now you have these poor people who have, piled all 7 of their kids in the minivan and they're coming from 45 minutes away because they're about to move and they're, you have no way to reach out to them and say, please, we've had an issue. So yeah, make sure to get a phone number. I just discovered this right now on this call, but apparently Calendly has the ability to invite additional guests, which is amazing. I've never seen that. That's awesome. So it looks like you can, like if you were scheduling Daneen, you could invite your husband.
And that's the person that's scheduling the event can do that.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
Yeah, super cool. So now I've got my form and I'm going to save and close, but we're not done. Now I get to update the calendar invite. So you get to personalize what it looks like. So here's what the email subject looks like. Here's what the body looks like. These little tags that you see with brackets, these are include tags. So this will include the event name instead of you having to write out the event name. And if you don't know what to do here, don't worry about it. Just know that this is the email that they're going to get. And so if you want to give them the same stuff that we talked about, just repeating that description. Hey, by the way, here's what's coming. Oh, and they actually do that here anyway, so you don't have to do that. If you want to turn on reminders, I believe this is a paid. Oh, no. You know what? It's probably because we're on the trial, because I do think that this is a paid version. But yeah, you can do text message reminders, which is kind of cool. And then, of course, email reminders. And you can personalize those email reminders. I don't think you need to do a lot of email reminders. What I would recommend schools do is if you're setting up email reminders, I would do one the day before. So one email reminder 24 hours in advance. And I think you'll actually see that that will increase your show rate if you have a lot of cancellations. You can list your cancellation policy and then decide to include a cancel and reschedule links in the email notifications, which is great. And what do we have here? Confirmation page. We can't redirect. Oh yeah, we're on a trial because you have to pay for this. I know that for a fact. So the Calendly confirmation page is what it is. Oh, this is kind of cool. Not applicable to Montessori schools. And that's it. So now we've got our event that we just built. And if I go view my live page, this is what it looks like. And I really love, I wonder if I'm going to be able to show you. I really love the way Calendly looks like on a smartphone, by the way. They've done such a good job being mobile responsive. So if I'm on my smartphone, it looks something a little bit like this. And it's very thumb friendly. So you go in and you just click the items that you want. And they make it really, even that was a really good example. That's thumb friendly. Because now I can still see what it is that I selected. A bad developer would have done something like, I click 9:30 and now it just says big blocks to confirm. And I don't remember exactly what I clicked. So this is just great. Confirmation, fill out the information, and we've all seen it work before. So yeah, that's Calendly. How did I do? Any other questions, comments, concerns, confessions?
So anyone attending, Candace, Chris, and Molly, just chat in any questions you've got specifically for us. And while they're doing that, Kasim, will you tell or speak a little bit about the follow-up process? I know that's like a whole nother coaching topic that we can talk about, but now that we've got Calendly, I'm super sold on it. I love it. I'm going to do it after this call. What about the follow-up? Before and after the tour, if you wouldn't mind talking 5 minutes, if you can, about that.
I don't mind at all. It's my favorite topic. They're all my favorite topics. There's the rule in sales is that follow-up makes the sale. And I realize that Montessorians don't like to use the word sale, but that's what we're doing. We're selling stuff. This is an Infusionsoft statistic. They say that 80% of all sales happen after the 8th email. Now, we're not dealing with emails here. We're dealing with parents coming to our school, but it's the same paradigm. They need to get to know you. And here's the problem with getting to know you is you're a Montessori school. If you're kinder care, it's this. Your kid's going to be safe. You have a bunch of stuff to play with, and there's going to be other kids there. And you're close. Now, what else do you need? If you're a Montessori school, they need to know all of this. And this is a lot to tell somebody in one meeting. Or you can take all of this, and I'll try to get the visual better. So you have all of this, and you can turn it on its side. Right? And now you've got email 1, email 2, email 3, email 4, email 5, so on and so forth. So what I would do in the very beginning is once somebody scheduled a tour, I would automatically drop them from Calendly into MailChimp into an automated email nurture. Here's the best part. All those things are free. Calendly is free. MailChimp is free. Zapier, their intro is free. And so you can use a tool called Zapier to take your Calendly invites and put them into your MailChimp automated sequence. If you don't know how to do this, we have courses on it inside the Need a Member area. So yeah, when they schedule a tour, what I've seen Matt do that I think is brilliant is his first email lets them know what to expect, what questions to ask. And then he also has a PS that says, hey, by the way, if you haven't downloaded our tuition rates, here they are. And the reason he does this is because he wants to make sure that that's not going to be an insurmountable issue. The idea being that if they've already scheduled a tour, they've sold themselves on your school enough to where the tuition's not going to scare them away, unless it's just not something they're going to be able to afford at all. And what he saw when he did that is he did see some cancellations, but he preferred that because they tend to be the ones that are sort of wasting the time of his admissions director, and she's very, very busy. So if you want to do that, I think it's a good pro tip. What I think you're doing after they schedule the tour is you're affirming their decision to schedule. You're not selling them on Montessori yet. So you want to tell them about you, mission, vision, values, and really speak to them. And again, get into the mind of your prospect and get into, what are they afraid of? What do they seek to gain? What's going to logically appeal to them? And those, by the way, are the 3 reasons people buy: gain, logic, fear. So if you can get into their mind and speak to them pre-tour, that's great. And that might not be a lot of emails. Maybe that's 3 emails because people tend to schedule pretty soon. The other thing that you want to do is after they've come in for a tour, now they need to go into, we call it buy, die, or unsubscribe. We won't have to use those words here, but you want to put them into follow-up that repeatedly sells your value, and they need to know why Montessori is worth it. And they need to know, if you're in an area with a lot of other Montessori schools, they need to know what sets you apart from those other schools too. And I think that follow-up is critically important to closing people. And I see Molly has a question here. Sorry to hop on segmenting. That's a great point, by the way. I think we need to segment everything, but with some of the free tools, it just gets harder. If a parent selects a location segment and makes an appointment, does that then fill the calendar and show up to Calendly in a way that the same appointment time is unavailable in the other location segments? If you have the appointments saved to the same calendar that is being checked for availability. I hope that was clear. Yes. So what you're saying is we have 3 calendars for 3 locations. And if somebody schedules for location A, does it populate calendar A only? And I believe.
And I think also, if we've got an admissions director who is visiting 3 locations, and the times available are showing for those 3 locations, if somebody schedules for this particular location, does it block off the other 2 so that the admissions director isn't double booked?
So that's the way what you just said, Daneen, is the way that Matt's works.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has one admissions director, it's basically her calendar. Are y'all looking at Calendly? Did I share my screen correctly?
Yep.
Cool. So I don't believe, just to answer the question directly, I believe it works the wrong way. And here's what makes me think that is if I click on account and I go to calendar connection, it says check for conflicts and it lets me choose a calendar, add to calendar and lets me choose a calendar. But this is a global setting. If we were able to apply specific events to specific calendars, then what I would expect to see is calendar connections instead of events, which we don't see. So I think it's actually pretty obvious to me now that no, we're not going to be able to do that, sadly. I think if you need a different calendar for every individual location, what I would do is I'd go and create a different Calendly account for every individual location. So location A would have Calendly account A. And that's the way to make sure that everything stays segmented. And I'm sorry that that's the case, but that's actually, I think this is a monetization decision from Calendly's perspective. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to pay per user. For obvious reasons, they want you to pay. But the hack there would be to just create 3 different accounts, and then you'll have 1 account per school. Was that helpful, Molly? Am I answering your question? And while we're waiting for Molly to get back in, does Candace and Kristen, thanks for being here live, by the way. Let us know if you have any questions too. Oh, and it looks like Molly has a follow-up. That's awesome. Let's do it.
Awesome. I know they're right in that spot too, where they've got the go-ahead for Calendly, so now they're ready to get it going and trying to figure out how that works for their programs. Nice. It's very timely. And then Candace and Kristen, if you have any questions as well. Comments too, some feedback as well, if this was helpful. We've been kind of playing around with different formats of the coaching call. And of course, the overarching goal is to make sure that it's helpful for you. So yeah, I would love some feedback on that.
Hey, thanks, Kristen.
Yay. Cool.
Never mind. I think we'll need to do 2 accounts just with thing Israel. Totally understood. And Molly, reach out to me if you just want to rap about it. Happy to help. I'm here for you. So, as you're going through this, if you want, I don't know how much help I'll be, but if you want someone to bounce things off of, feel free.
Yeah, you're good with ninja moves.
Yeah, ninja moves.
Awesome. Good, good.
Yeah.
Well, this is such a good topic. Thank you, Kasim, for joining us on this and really going through it thoroughly. You know, I mean, it was so great to see that live and kind of be able to ask questions along the way that I imagine a lot of our members will have as we're trying to set this up, and also speaking to the fear of like, I don't want people to schedule this, you know, without talking to them. And that really, well, we have to shift our mindset on that. I think Calendly, the risks and the benefits, as you put on there, are obviously something you need to decide. But if I had a school, I would love to have Calendly because it just is such a good gateway for everything else in the program.
One last point for everybody is there are 3 courses on Calendly in the NITO members area. I think I made the Calendly one too. So here's the Calendly course, and then we've got Calendly for Gmail. Calendly has a great Gmail integration where you can drop calendar invite events right into the email, so they can just pick a time right there, which is really cool. And then we've got how to embed Calendly on your website. And we show you with multiple different website types. And there might even be one more.
And that's something you would typically send to your web developer, right? Like if you've got Calendly and then you want it to be embedded, if you have a webmaster, they would do that for you, right?
Yes, Calendly, they make it so easy, just about anybody can do it. All you need is just access to the source code on a page of text. And that's pretty easy to get at. I know that may have sounded like gobbledygook, but Calendly gives you this code, and then you go into the page and you say, this is where I want it to go. And then you save it, and then you go look at the page on the front end, and bam, it's there. And then if you want to drop that on your webmaster, it's truly like 4 seconds worth of work.
And it's similar to embedding like YouTube videos too. Like
it's the exact same process.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. See, you're a digital marketer.
I know.
Bam.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, live attendees, for joining us. And if you're watching us on Facebook, thank you for having us. And Kasim, thanks again for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All righty. Take care, everyone.
All right, bye.